Welcome back to Spotlight, and the day in Spotlight we have been spending with Mr. Sarosh Zaiwalla, who has an international firm here now in London that deals with very difficult cases. We have spoken to his son, spent some time doing meditations, feeding his ponies, and now we are in his London pad. Yes, he does start his day with meditation and ends up in reading, and here he is already. So you start your day with meditation, you end up with reading, and
I start my day sitting here facing the river.
yes,
And meditation, prayers, and then I leave for office. And then I come back usually back here at about 6:37 in the evening.
So before I talk about your reading habits and stuff, I want to say, sitting over the Thames, first by the English Channel in your country house, now by the Thames, overlooking the Westminster Parliament and Big Ben. What goes through your head sometimes?
This is the building which ruled 2/5 of the world
Yes.
70 years ago, and I can look at it every morning. And the Big Ben is my clock.
Fantastic.
Good.
Beautiful. So tell me about your what does reading do for you?
I like to do light readings, especially when I'm traveling, because I travel quite a lot. I make lots of overseas travel, and when I'm at my Villefranche apartment in the Mediterranean,
Yes.
I've been reading a lot of history.
Yes.
I've just now finished a book on the First World War, and how it was a thick book on how it started and what happened and all the thing. I've read about the Second World War. I've read about the German side of it too. I've read about the Indian history, the Crimean War.
Wow,
So
beautiful.
that's good.
Was this your dream, or you landed here?
No, when I was a kid in India, I was very much into politics, and I wanted to be the Prime Minister of India.
Mr. Modi?
And not Mr. Modi, but I had to. My plans. We were three of us: Marzban Patrawala, Firoz Talia Khan, and myself. We were three Parsis. We were sort of contemporaries, and we were very keen to change India. And in those days, being young, I was very much a socialist, to look after the poor and to change the system, because I didn't like all the servants at home not eating with us. And I used to insist with my mother and with my parents. My father didn't mind that my servants will eat with me on the table, which is quite odd. So one has to change, and one has to always evolve the situation. And I would consider myself an evolutionary and not a revolutionary, because there are institutions and there's a system at work. So you have to change the system with a changing world. The world is changing so fast now that we all have to change with the world. The world is becoming one, universal. And when people ask me, where am I from? I say, I am a citizen of the world, national of Britain, and native of India.
Yes, and also coming back to your native in India, your son does say you get most at home when you are in Mumbai or
I'm
in India.
Mumbai. I get into chapels. I travel by bus. In fact, a couple of years ago, I was at Flora Fountain eating the Singh Chana, which I used to eat during the school days.
Yes.
And an Indian solicitor came back, and here is a famous solicitor sitting with slippers eating Singh Chana. I said, what's wrong in that? I enjoyed it.
What is it that you most miss about India now here?
I don't think I can say that I enjoy the Indian culture very much, and I'm very much into the Indian culture. But I can't say that I miss, because I think that the world is my country now, and therefore I'm a citizen of the world. The world is my country.
Should we end up by asking you, like I asked your son, is there anything, I think you've been most indulgent with them. They say that, your son says that probably we are his weakness. Is that true?
Nonsense.
Nonsense?
They are my strength.
Weakness is not in the weakness, and then you've indulged with them. You probably
No, I think-
most.
I think the most important thing which I taught them is the humility and integrity, because as a Parsi, it was most important to keep the word. And for me, even today, if I give a word, I'll keep it. Otherwise, I will not give a word. And I remember I met Mother Meera, who is in Frankfurt from Aurobindo Ashram, and she said, "You are a man who keep your word," and she just said it immediately. And this is something very important to me, to keep my word
Keep
and
your
integrity.
word. So, is there one thing that you haven't yet said to your kids, which you would want to?
No, now they're grown up, they're on their own, they're flying, they should fly on their own. For every father and every parent, the most important thing is to teach children how to fly on their own. That's part of nature. And once they fly on their own, they're on their own.
I would take away, keep your word and integrity.
Keep your word is the most important thing.
And the best part is that everyone called you happy.
Yeah, but if you keep your word and if you live in the present, you are going to be calm and happy. Even that's what people say. In fact, was it somewhere I was traveling and I was in the lift and they said, "You are such a happy person." In the lift, somebody said. So you smile. The trouble is that the ego causes it. If you read the Gita, the ego is the biggest problem. Ego and attachment. And if you learn to keep your ego down, or lower the ego, then you don't have to bother about protecting your ego, and you're happy.
Do you look forward and want for something more now?
Not really. I would like to see India change.
Really?
And I would like to see that the Prime Minister Modi succeeds in making India really a universal country, comparable to China, comparable to the Western countries. I went first to China on a sponsored trip in 1991, and it was completely different. There were millions of cycles and very few cars. Now there are millions of cars and few cycles. But one thing which I learned from China, and that makes Chinese and India different, that the Chinese, when they don't know, they learn. They know that they don't know, and they will learn. Whereas the Indian culture is that even if you don't know, we'll say we know and we'll get on. We'll make a mess of it. Now that needs to be changed. We have to be humble to say, look, we are a great nation and we are a tremendous intellectual people, and we need to have intellectual discipline to know what we don't know and then to work on it and get the best from various cultures. That's what Gandhiji also said, get the best of it. Vivekananda also said, get the best of every culture.
How would you in one word describe your life now, sitting by your beautiful Westminster by the Thames apartment?
I've been blessed by God. I'm lucky. I always call myself I'm very lucky.
And we're very lucky to have
all.
spent beautiful day with you.
Not at all.
Thank you so very much,
Thank you very much
Mr.
for coming.
Zaiwalla. It was
I'm
an
grateful to you.
absolute pleasure.
And God bless you.
Absolute
Bye-bye.
pleasure.
Bye.
See you next week with another episode of a Spotlight. You can send me your feedback on my Twitter handle at Lavina Tandon. I learned so much from Mr. Zaiwalla, but the one last thing is integrity and keep your word. So keep your word and keep watching Spotlight.